Mental strength is not something we are born with. It's not a genetic trait, a talent, or a personality type. It's a skill. And like any other skill, it can be developed, sharpened, and refined over time. Mental strength isn't about pretending to be tough. It's about building the capacity to remain calm, clear-headed, and focused when life doesn't go your way. Let's start by recognizing one of the greatest myths, that mentally strong people don't feel fear, stress, or insecurity. That's simply not true. In fact, mentally strong people feel all of those things. The difference is they don't let those emotions control their decisions. To become mentally strong, the first step is to build self-awareness. You can't manage what you don't understand. Notice how you react under pressure. Notice your patterns when you're overwhelmed. Are you reactive? Do you shut down? Or do you try to push through without processing anything? Awareness doesn't require fixing anything at first. It only requires that you become a student of your own mind. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Where is this coming from? Is this response helping me or hurting me? That kind of inner dialogue is where mental strength begins. Next, let's talk about habits. Mentally strong people don't rely on willpower alone. They build systems. They structure their lives to support their values. They make difficult decisions once, then let those decisions guide their routines. Take the example of someone trying to manage their anger. If they rely on the moment to calm themselves, they'll lose the battle 9 times out of 10. But if they've practiced breathing techniques, built boundaries, and removed themselves from toxic situations ahead of time, they're already equipped. That's not luck, that's preparation. Another major pillar of mental strength is learning to delay gratification. In a world obsessed with instant results, mental strength is often the ability to choose what is right over what is easy. It's skipping the comfort of temporary relief for the long-term gain of discipline. That means turning off distractions when it's time to focus, saying no even when it's uncomfortable, and trusting the process even when progress is invisible. Now here's something most people overlook: rest. Mental strength is not just about pushing through pain. It's also about knowing when to stop. A tired brain is a vulnerable brain. Rest is not weakness. Rest is strategy. A person who knows how to pause can reset, recharge, and return sharper than before. This isn't laziness, it's wisdom. And finally, mentally strong people are anchored in something deeper than just success or failure. They are driven by purpose. Not every day is easy. Not every battle is won. But when you know why you're doing something, why you show up, why you care, you can withstand more than you ever imagined. Purpose gives resilience a reason. When you're fueled by meaning, you're no longer just surviving the hard times, you're growing through them. So how do you become mentally strong? You study yourself, you build systems, you practice discipline, you honor rest, and you live with purpose. Not all at once, but one choice at a time, because mental strength isn't what you show the world, it's what you build within yourself when no one's watching. Mental strength is a skill, not a trait. It can be learned and developed through intentional practice. Self-awareness is the foundation of mental strength. Understanding your emotional responses is the first step to managing them. Mentally strong people build systems and habits that support their values instead of relying on momentary willpower. Delaying gratification and embracing discipline are key to long-term resilience and growth. Rest, reflection, and a clear sense of purpose are essential tools for sustaining mental strength over time. Mental strength is a skill, not a trait. It can be learned and developed through intentional practice. This is a truth that often surprises people. Many assume that resilience, emotional stability, and inner toughness are qualities some are just born with. We look at those who remain calm in chaos or who rise after failure and say, they're just strong, as if it's built into their DNA. But that belief is not only inaccurate, it's disempowering. Because if mental strength is something you're either born with or not, then there's no point in trying to grow. But if it's a skill, then anyone, regardless of age, background, or personality, can develop it with time, effort, and the right approach. The process of building mental strength begins with a shift in perspective. It requires moving away from the idea that our thoughts and feelings are fixed. The truth is, the brain is highly adaptable. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through experience, proves that how we think, respond, and interpret situations can evolve. That means the way we handle pressure, setbacks, rejection, or criticism can be trained. It's not about pretending to be fearless or emotionless. Mental strength is about managing your internal world in a way that serves you rather than sabotages you. Imagine someone who constantly avoids uncomfortable situations. Maybe they fear failure or judgment. They stay in their comfort zone, convinced that's just who they are. But if that person begins to intentionally step into discomfort, little by little, something changes. At first, it's terrifying, but over time, their nervous system adjusts. Their thoughts become more grounded. Their confidence grows. What they're really doing is building mental muscle. the same way someone builds physical muscle through repeated workouts. The core of developing mental strength is intentional practice. This means being deliberate about how you handle adversity, setbacks, stress, and everyday challenges. It's not enough to know what to do in theory. You have to apply it consistently. You have to practice saying no when you want to say yes just to please others. You have to practice staying calm when your instinct is to lash out. You have to practice pausing to reflect rather than reacting impulsively. These are not talents, they are learned responses. And like any practice, you get better the more you do it. Mental strength also comes from choosing what to focus on. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can always control what you give your attention to. When you constantly feed your mind with fear, negativity, or comparison, you weaken your own capacity for resilience. But when you learn to shift your focus toward growth, solutions, and values, you begin to train your brain to see possibilities instead of threats. This doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means framing reality in a way that gives you power, not paralysis. Another important part of this journey is self-compassion. People often think that being mentally strong means being hard on yourself, never letting emotion show, and pushing through no matter what. But true strength includes kindness. It means acknowledging when you're struggling without shaming yourself for it. It means giving yourself room to grow without expecting perfection. When you treat yourself with compassion, you actually build greater endurance because you're not draining energy on guilt or self-criticism. You recover faster and you come back stronger. Consistency is what turns mental training into mental strength. You don't build it in a single moment of bravery. It's built in the quiet decisions you make every day when no one is watching, when you choose to journal instead of vent, when you take a walk instead of spiraling in anxiety, when you hold back an impulsive reply and breathe instead. These small moments are the reps that form your inner resilience. Mental strength grows when you embrace struggle as part of your growth. Challenges become opportunities to test and refine your inner tools. Every time you face a difficulty and respond with intention rather than instinct, you're rewiring your mind to respond better next time. You're developing confidence not because everything is easy, but because you've proven to yourself that you can handle it. Ultimately, what separates mentally strong people from others is not the absence of fear or doubt, but their relationship to it. They don't wait for ideal circumstances. They act in the face of uncertainty. They've trained themselves to endure discomfort, to stay aligned with their values under pressure, and to recover quickly from emotional storms. All of this is learnable. All of this is practice. And all of this proves that mental strength is not something you either have or don't. It's something you can build every single day. Self-awareness is the foundation of mental strength. Understanding your emotional responses is the first step to managing them. Without self-awareness, it is nearly impossible to build real resilience because you cannot change what you don't notice. Mental strength does not begin with action. It begins with recognition. It begins with your ability to notice your thoughts, your patterns, your reactions, and the beliefs that drive them. Most people are not truly in control of their behavior. They are simply reacting to the world based on unconscious emotional habits. They're not choosing, they're surviving. And surviving is not the same as living with intention. Becoming mentally strong means stepping out of that autopilot mode and choosing to become an observer of yourself. That means paying attention when you feel triggered, anxious, defensive, or shut down. Instead of immediately acting on those emotions, mentally strong people learn to pause and reflect. They ask, why am I feeling this way? Or what's actually bothering me here? That moment of reflection, however small, is the beginning of self-mastery. It interrupts the automatic loop and creates space for a different response. Self-awareness is not just about identifying emotions. It's about understanding the roots of those emotions. For example, someone might feel irritated every time they receive constructive feedback. On the surface, they may say they just don't like being criticized. But if they dig deeper, they might realize that criticism makes them feel unworthy or that they're tying their value to being right. That realization is powerful because once you see where a feeling comes from, you stop being afraid of it. You stop letting it control you. You begin to respond to situations from a place of clarity rather than insecurity. Developing self-awareness also means being honest with yourself. Even when the truth is uncomfortable, it's easy to blame other people, situations, or bad luck for how we feel. But mentally strong individuals take full ownership of their internal state. They understand that even if someone else triggered them, their reaction is still their own responsibility. They don't run from discomfort. They sit with it. They explore it and they learn from it. That doesn't mean they enjoy pain, but they understand that pain is information. Emotions are signals, not enemies. Anger may signal a boundary has been crossed. Sadness may reveal an unmet need. Anxiety may indicate a fear of losing control. When you listen to what your emotions are telling you, you gain insight that allows you to act with intention rather than instinct. The more aware you become of your emotional landscape, the more stable you become in difficult situations. Life will always throw challenges your way. You cannot control the behavior of others, the unpredictability of the world, or the outcomes of every effort. But what you can control is your internal response. And that control comes from self-awareness. It helps you identify when your thoughts are spiraling, when you're catastrophizing, when you're projecting old wounds onto new situations. It gives you the power to slow down and choose how you want to show up. This awareness isn't built overnight. It's cultivated through small, consistent moments of reflection. It can happen during journaling, when you reflect on your day and notice how certain interactions made you feel. It can happen during a conversation when you catch yourself getting defensive and mentally pause to ask, what am I protecting here? It can happen during solitude when you sit quietly and just notice the pace of your thoughts or the sensations in your body. Each of these practices builds a habit of inner attention. Over time, you start recognizing patterns you never noticed before. You begin to see how your past influences your present. You see how certain people, environments, or beliefs affect your energy, and that knowledge becomes your power. When you know yourself deeply, you stop being afraid of your emotions. You stop avoiding them. You stop reacting blindly. Instead, you begin to use your emotional awareness as a tool for better communication, stronger boundaries, and deeper relationships. You no longer live at the mercy of every passing feeling. You become steady, grounded, and thoughtful. That steadiness is the essence of mental strength, not the suppression of emotions, but the mastery of them. Ultimately, self-awareness is not just a soft skill. It's the foundation of personal power. It allows you to move through life with more grace, more control, and more resilience. You become someone who doesn't just survive adversity, but who grows through it. And that growth begins the moment you decide to turn inward and become a student of yourself. Mentally strong people build systems and habits that support their values instead of relying on momentary willpower. Many people think mental strength is about sheer determination or raw grit. They picture someone gritting their teeth through adversity, forcing themselves to do the hard thing by summoning some magical reserve of inner strength. But that version of strength is short-lived. Willpower is limited. It fades especially under stress, fatigue, or emotional strain. Relying on willpower alone is like trying to carry water with your hands. It slips away no matter how tight you hold. True mental strength isn't about how hard you can push in one moment. It's about how well you've structured your life to support the kind of person you want to be over time. Mentally strong individuals understand this. They don't depend on motivation to act. Instead, they create systems, intentional patterns and structures that make it easier to live according to their values, even when life is hard. These systems aren't elaborate or dramatic. They're often quiet, simple, and consistent. For example, someone who values health doesn't wait until they feel motivated to eat well or exercise. They design their environment so it's easy to make healthy choices. They meal prep. They schedule workouts. They keep their space free of unnecessary temptation. These actions may seem small, but they remove the need to make dozens of willpower-driven decisions throughout the day. That's the power of structure. It protects your energy and supports your intentions. Habits are a key part of this process. Habits reduce friction. When something becomes a habit, you don't have to negotiate with yourself every time. You don't have to ask, should I do this today? It becomes automatic. Mentally strong people understand that discipline isn't about doing hard things once. It's about turning hard things into routine. If journaling helps them process emotions, they don't wait until they're in crisis to write. They build it into their day. If boundaries protect their mental space, they practice saying no regularly, not just when they're overwhelmed. Over time, these habits become part of who they are. And when life throws challenges their way, those systems are already in place, acting like scaffolding that holds them up. A major advantage of having systems and habits is that they reduce decision fatigue. Every day we are faced with hundreds of choices, big and small. Each decision we make depletes a bit of our mental energy. Mentally strong individuals conserve that energy by turning their most important behaviors into non-negotiables. They don't ask themselves if they'll do their morning routine. It's automatic. They don't argue with themselves about staying up late scrolling on their phone. They've set boundaries in advance. These aren't random restrictions. They're expressions of their deeper values. Because mental strength isn't about avoiding difficulty. It's about aligning your behavior with what matters most, especially when it's inconvenient. Another way mentally strong people use systems is through accountability. They surround themselves with people who support their growth. They create environments that reflect their goals. If their aim is to be more focused, they minimize distractions. If they want to improve emotional regulation, They engage in regular reflection or therapy. They don't just hope things will get better. They create conditions that make better outcomes more likely. These systems become a form of self-respect. They're not built to control every moment, but to protect the space where meaningful action can happen. One reason this approach works so well is because it removes emotion from the equation at the wrong time. When you're tired, stressed, or discouraged, you're less likely to make the decision that aligns with your long-term vision. But if that decision was already made earlier, built into a habit or routine, you don't need to summon willpower in a low moment. You just follow the path you've already created. That consistency builds confidence. It teaches your brain that you can trust yourself to follow through even when it's hard. And that trust becomes the foundation of real mental resilience. Mentally strong people aren't perfect. They slip, they struggle, and they fail like everyone else. But the systems they've built give them a way back. A rough day doesn't completely derail them because they don't rely on how they feel in the moment. They fall back on structure. And that structure brings them back to center. Over time, those systems evolve. They're not rigid. Mentally strong people are flexible. They adjust, they refine, but they always keep one thing in mind: consistency beats intensity. A small positive habit repeated daily is more powerful than a massive effort that burns out in a week. That's how they grow slowly, intentionally, and sustainably. Not because they're stronger than others in a moment of crisis, but because they've built a life that keeps them strong even when crisis comes. Delaying gratification and embracing discipline are key to long-term resilience and growth. This principle is at the heart of mental strength because it speaks to the ability to resist the pull of immediate comfort in favor of something more meaningful, more lasting, and ultimately more fulfilling. In a world where everything is faster, more accessible, and constantly demanding attention, the temptation to choose what's easy over what's right has never been stronger. But mental strength is not built in ease. It is built in the quiet moments when someone chooses to endure discomfort, face boredom, and tolerate frustration, all for the sake of a greater goal. Delaying gratification means having the patience to wait for something better. Even when everything inside you craves a shortcut, it's about resisting the urge to quit just because progress feels slow. It's choosing to study instead of scrolling, to save instead of spending impulsively, to speak calmly instead of lashing out, to practice even when improvement feels invisible. It's a mindset that understands that growth often hides beneath the surface and that results may take time. But every act of self-discipline is a brick laid on the path to a stronger, more grounded self. Discipline is often misunderstood. People associate it with punishment or restriction, but true discipline is freedom. It frees you from the chaos of acting on every impulse. It frees you from regret, from the weight of missed opportunities, from the pain of knowing you settle for less because it was easier. Discipline is not about controlling your life to the point of exhaustion. It's about aligning your behavior with your values even when it's hard. It's waking up and honoring a commitment you made to yourself. It's finishing what you started even when the initial excitement has faded. It's showing up when you'd rather stay comfortable. This kind of discipline is not driven by fear or perfectionism. It's driven by clarity. People who have built mental strength know what they want, not just in terms of goals, but in terms of the person they want to become. That clarity gives their discipline purpose. They don't delay gratification just to be tough. They do it because they know that real satisfaction doesn't come from short-term pleasure. It comes from doing hard things that matter, from knowing you gave your best even when it wasn't easy. There's a subtle, quiet power in saying no to what you want now for the sake of something greater. It builds self-respect. It teaches you that you are capable of tolerating discomfort. Each time you resist the temptation to escape, to give in, to take the easy way out, you send yourself a message that you are strong enough to wait. That message accumulates. It becomes part of your identity. And over time, it builds a kind of resilience that doesn't waver when life gets tough. Because you've trained for it. You've practiced sacrifice. You've built a habit of choosing the long game. This practice of delaying gratification also teaches emotional regulation. When you're not ruled by your impulses, you make clearer decisions. You don't react out of fear or desire. You respond with thought. You learn to pause before acting, to reflect before choosing. That pause is powerful. It creates space between stimulus and response. And in that space lies your power to change everything. A person who has trained themselves to wait, to think, to choose deliberately is a person who cannot be easily shaken. Because their decisions are not based on what feels good in the moment. They are based on what moves them forward. In moments of pressure, when everything seems to be falling apart, mentally strong people don't chase relief. They hold steady. They trust their process. They know the discomfort will pass, and what they've built through discipline will outlast it. That's the difference between comfort and strength. Comfort is temporary, but strength is permanent. And strength is what sustains you when comfort is no longer available. This is not about being cold or emotionless. It's about being mature enough to recognize that not every craving deserves to be fulfilled, that not every emotion demands a reaction, that not every opportunity is worth taking if it doesn't align with your values. Delaying gratification isn't a denial of pleasure. It's a choice to pursue a deeper, longer lasting kind of fulfillment. It's the difference between reacting and responding, between surviving and evolving. In the end, mental strength grows every time you prove to yourself that you can choose what's meaningful over what's easy. It grows every time you delay a reward, every time you hold the line, every time you sacrifice temporary relief for lasting growth. That's not just self-control, it's self-respect. And it's in those quiet, difficult choices that the strongest version of yourself is built. Rest, reflection, and a clear sense of purpose are essential tools for sustaining mental strength over time. In a culture that glorifies hustle, nonstop productivity, and constant engagement, rest is often treated as a weakness or a luxury. But nothing could be further from the truth. Rest is not the opposite of strength, it is what fuels it. The brain, like the body, needs periods of recovery to function at its highest level. Just as muscles grow in the rest between workouts, mental resilience is developed not only through challenges, but also through recovery from them. Mentally strong people understand that they cannot give their best if they are always running on empty. They do not confuse exhaustion with commitment. They know that in order to think clearly, respond wisely, and lead themselves or others effectively, they must protect their mental and emotional energy through deliberate pauses. Rest is not just sleep, although sleep is a vital part of it. Rest is about stepping away from the noise. It's about allowing the nervous system to reset. It's about creating space in your life that isn't filled with constant input or demands. That might look like solitude, time in nature, journaling, meditation, or even doing something playful and unstructured. These are not distractions, they are maintenance. They allow you to return to challenges with sharper focus and more emotional stability. When people push themselves endlessly without rest, they don't become stronger. They become reactive, irritable, impulsive, and burned out. There is no resilience in that. There is only survival. Reflection is the second part of this equation. Mentally strong people don't just move through life reacting to events. They take time to think about what's happening, why it matters, and what they can learn from it. Reflection is what transforms experience into insight. Without it, we repeat the same mistakes, fall into the same emotional traps, and fail to grow. But with regular reflection, even pain becomes purposeful. Reflection allows you to ask better questions. Instead of, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what is this teaching me? Or what part of me needs attention right now? That shift is powerful. It takes you out of victim mode and into awareness. It helps you identify patterns in your reactions, recognize the sources of your triggers, and understand the lessons behind your struggles. Reflection also reinforces progress. Often, growth is invisible in the moment. You might not feel stronger, but when you look back at who you were 6 months ago or how you handled a situation differently this time, you start to see it. That awareness builds confidence. It reminds you that change is possible and that your effort is paying off, even if slowly. Mentally strong people build a habit of reflection because they know it sharpens their decision making, strengthens their emotional control, and connects them to their inner truth. But perhaps the most important sustaining force behind mental strength is purpose. Purpose is what gives your struggle meaning. It is the deeper why behind your actions. Without purpose, discipline feels like punishment, sacrifice feels pointless, and setbacks feel like signs to quit. But with purpose, even the hardest days have direction. Mentally strong individuals know why they're doing what they're doing. That doesn't mean they never feel tired, discouraged, or uncertain. It means they have an anchor to return to when those feelings come. Purpose is not always tied to a big external goal. Sometimes it's as simple as wanting to grow, to be a better version of yourself, to break a cycle, to live with integrity, to serve others. Purpose personalizes your journey. It reminds you that your effort has value, that you are working towards something that matters deeply to you. This clarity of purpose acts as a compass. When faced with difficult decisions, mentally strong people don't just ask what's easiest or what brings the most immediate pleasure. They ask what aligns with their purpose. That question guides their behavior and keeps them grounded. It keeps them from drifting into distraction or living according to someone else's expectations. Purpose provides motivation when emotions fluctuate. It keeps you going when results aren't showing. It sustains you through discomfort because it speaks to something beyond the moment. The integration of rest, reflection, and purpose creates a cycle of mental resilience that feeds itself. Rest gives you the energy to reflect. Reflection deepens your sense of purpose. Purpose makes rest feel meaningful, not lazy. Together, they build a foundation that can withstand pressure, change, and adversity. Mentally strong people aren't just disciplined or tough, they are intentional. They understand that strength without sustainability is short-lived. They honor their limits, learn from their experiences, and stay connected to the reason behind their efforts. This is what allows them to not just perform well for a short time, but to grow steadily, consistently, and deeply over the long run. Mental strength is not something we're born with. It's something we build choice by choice, day by day. It's the result of conscious effort, not accidental traits. It begins with self-awareness, the ability to pause and understand what's really happening inside us. It grows stronger when we stop depending on fleeting willpower and instead build habits and systems that align with our values. It deepens when we choose discipline over comfort and delay gratification in pursuit of something greater. And it's sustained through rest, reflection, and a clear sense of purpose. Because without these, even the strongest will eventually break. Mental strength is not loud. It's not about being fearless or emotionless. It's about remaining steady when the world is shaking. It's about acting with intention when every part of you wants to react. And it's about becoming someone who doesn't just survive the hard times, but who rises because of them.